Hi there, Thomas Collins here again from AuditSnap, and in this video we are going to explore from end to end the workflow using our new templates. So if you watched the previous video, I've showed you how to actually build a custom template using AuditSnap. This time we're going to use it on an end-to-end workflow with some dummy information that I have to the side. So the first thing we're going to do is we're opening up our AuditSnap app on our desktop. We can also do this on your smartphone or on your tablet even. And we're just going to look at the full view here as we work through our workflow. If we go to templates here, you can see the template that we built in our earlier session, workshop equipment and safety inspection. We can click use now and it'll take us straight into the workflow. And we can also start back here at the home screen and say start new audit. And you can see here we have an option to go with our typical no template workflow using AuditSnap, which you'll be used to if you're an AuditSnap user, or we can use our template. So we're going to use our template this time. I'm going to start loading in some information. The title of the inspection here is Workshop Equipment and Safety Inspection. We're using a template, and we're going to have to select from the drop down which template we're going to use. So we're going to use Workshop Equipment and Safety Inspection. We've got some dummy location here, which is here. We could also capture the GPS if we were on site at the time. We're going to use a dummy client here. I'm just going to use Rivermark Logistics as the client. We could also add a lot more detail here about the inspection, the objective, etc. if we wish. We're not going to do that for this exercise. So we're starting the inspection now. As you can see, and what you might notice if you're already a user of AuditSnap, is that we now have our template embedded in the workflow. So this is you'll recognize this if you saw the previous video. We've got 4 sections here, and we've got 8 responses that are required by the inspection. We can also have findings separate or indeed linked to those responses, and I'll show you what that in a sec. We also have actions, and we need to populate this out while we're doing our inspection before we can actually create our inspection report. So let's go ahead and start doing that. We'll unfold our first section, inspection details, and we're going to answer the question about the area and equipment inspected. So we're going to just copy and paste this in. Of course, if you were doing this live, you would be able to dictate your responses by clicking the dictate little microphone over here, or you can type it in at the same time. For every item in every section, we can also add further detail. So we can add a note, we can add a photograph evidence, or we can indeed raise a finding linked to this. If we wanted to add even more detail to whatever we found, we can add additional photographs, we can annotate them, we can add all the metadata, prioritize them, a whole lot of things you can do with a finding, extra that is. And we can also add linked actions. So we're going to do this in a bit. Right now, we're just going to leave the detail for the later items. The next question is around the number of pieces of equipment we're going to check, and the answer to that is 7. So that's answered. Section 1 is answered. You can see that here, 2 out of 8 are answered, and that's been saved. So we can now move on to section 2, which is about the equipment condition. Again, I am going to, so the first question is describe any visible damage, corrosion, or defects. I'm going to copy and paste in our little dummy data here. And it says minor corrosion was visible on several exposed bolts and pipe joints. Localized coating damage was also identified in the supporting steel frame. The main pipework and valve assemblies appear secure, no visible damage. Here, we can attach some photographs. So let's go ahead and take some photographs. So we are going to choose some rusty bolts. Those might be here. We're going to choose some corrosion maybe as well. And let's just leave it at that for now. The next question is about the equipment in acceptable condition. So here we can say that the condition was non-compliant, which you can see is raised as a concern here immediately. And from this item, or from any item, we could create a linked finding. So this is where we create more detail around what we've actually found. So let's raise a finding here and see what that looks like. So here we've got a title, is the equipment in acceptable condition? We're just going to leave the title if we want to, or we can change that if we so wish. Let's choose some more photographs. So we're going to choose some photographs from here. Let's say the bust one here, maybe here, and maybe this one. Observation here is surface corrosion was identified on exposed bolts and around several pipe connections. Localized coating damage was also present on the supporting steel. So that is our audio. It's transcribing there, and we'll drop into the appropriate field. And you can see our photographs up here, and we can even annotate these photographs as well if we wish. We might want to, just identify where those issues are, even though it's quite obvious, but just for pig iron, let's throw those in there. So we can do caption there as well if we wanted to. You can see that's going to update there and drop into the gallery as well. So that's that. We're going to set our severity here. Let's call it high. Additional details we can also put in here. So we can say workshop A, for example. We can tag it in terms of corrosion, and we can even suggest some standards here, but we're not going to do that right. So we're going to save this finding. And so we're back to our home screen here. We're in section 2. You can see that we've added more detail here. One finding raised, it says here. And let's add an action as well linked to this section. And we're going to say treat corrosion and repair coating. So just going to copy that in there. Let's call it a high priority. I'm going to assign it to myself. Going to give myself a week to do it, let's say. And then we can add some further details there. So let's just do it right now. Clean and inspect the affected areas, replace any significant corroded fixings, and reinstate the protective coating. So that will transcribe there in real time and drop into the field. So now we've got one finding raised and one action raised against this particular item in section 2. So that's worked out pretty well there. Let's go to section 3 now. This is access and safety. So we're going to record any access, guarding, or safety concerns. Again, we could dictate these if we wanted to, but let's just drop it in here. Section of yellow handrail was broken, leaving an opening along the edge of the raised platform. So that's our observation at a high level there. We've also got loose cables hanging from an open cable support section. So we're going to add our evidence in here. So we'll just pop this open again. There's a bit of loose railing there. Let's try to find the cables here, drop those in, and here we go. So what we can do now is create a finding against those, because at a high level, we've recorded those incidents, but maybe we want to give it more detail. Maybe we want to create some actions. So those are added there. We're going to add more detail here. First, we're going to raise a finding, and this is a linked finding to the damaged platform handrail. So we can actually change the title even here. And we've already given a picture on the gallery. We can add more photographs if we wish. So we've got a couple of photographs there that we've added to the finding. We can then record a description. A section of handrail was broken, leaving an unprotected opening at the platform edge. We can actually we'll add the severity as critical here. And let's now this time create an action related to this finding. So there's multiple ways we can skin it here. There's multiple ways you can add an action. So let's add the action here this time, and we'll this time say that we need a repair. So we need a repair and temporary isolate platform, give it to myself, critical, that needs to be done immediately. And so we can give it more details if we wish, but that's been raised there now as well. So we'll save that finding. It should take us back to our responses section. We've got 5 out of 8 responses given there. Let's move on to our last section, maintenance assessment here. Summarize any maintenance or follow-up required. So I'm just going to drop this in. We've already created some actions. So immediate attention is required for the damaged handrail. We've created an action against that already. The loose cable should be secured and minor corrosion and coating defects should be addressed. We didn't raise an action against our cables, so we might need to want to do that. We can do that here as well. So let's do that quickly about the cables. So we're just going to say secure loose cables. We're going to give that a high priority, assign it to myself. We'll give it until the end of the week, let's say, and then we'll just create that action there. So there's another action there we've raised. So we can see you can raise actions anywhere. We can add evidence anywhere. We can add notes and further detail. And of course, having that all linked to our overall findings in our template. So that's that brings us to our last piece here. So we were going to say repair required. So there's a concern around that. We've already identified what the repairs should be. And so that brings us to the end of our template. Oh, we're after leaving something out. So we've got, this is the last section that we've left out. See, so this is a good catch. And so if you have got a process or that where you need to cover a certain amount of bases and you need a certain amount of detail to be answered in every inspection report, then this is a good way to catch it. You actually wouldn't be able to generate the inspection report if I hadn't completed all of these sections. So this is the last section. So confirm that access platforms, handrails, and surrounding areas have been checked. So that's checked there now. All 8 have been answered. We can actually go in and see our findings separately and see where they're linked in here. And we can create other findings as well, findings that are unrelated to our template. Can be also entered in this space. We can see our actions here as well. We can edit those point as well. But I think we have sufficient detail here, so I'm actually going to go and create our inspection report right now. So just click that. So that took a couple of seconds. As you can see here, the app has produced for us an executive summary based on all the findings, based on our template. We've got 8 out of 8 items, the location, and some criticality around the findings and the actions that we've had. We have got all of our sections completed here. As you can see, those fold out, and you can see that some of our images are captured there as well. We've got our findings and our actions. And this little button alongside all of these sections will actually allow us to professionalize further our commentary. So sometimes when you're recording voice notes or even typing in notes, it mightn't come out, to the level of professionalization that you require. And so here we can click this button. AI will tweak it without losing the spirit or the content or the detail, but it'll just tweak it and make it more professional prose. So that's an interesting one there as well. We're just going to sign this off. So we can have multiple signatures on this. In this one, we just have the one signature, but we can just draw our signature. Of course, this would be much easier if it was on your smart device, but just draw your initials there at least, and that's all done. So that's reviewed and polished. Of course, we can edit any of these sections manually as well if we so wish. But if we're happy with it, we can move on to the export tab here, which lets us control what style we want our exported document in, or how we organize or sort the different sections and elements of our document. And we can even have some advanced options like leaving in or out the premium cover page, leaving in our original inspector notes rather than the professionalized ones. We can even change the language. We've got some language defaults here as well for the output report if you happen to have, if the audience was reading in a different language, right? But for now, let's leave all that to its defaults, and we're just going to download the PDF and see what that looks like. So here we go, downloaded the PDF. This is what it looks like. This is exactly the content that we've just built. You can see here that we've got an executive summary. We've got our key metrics for everything we just did. We've got 2 concerns there. Here we've got a page for each of our sections. We've got our images exposed here as well. We've got our different section 3, access and safety is here. And here we've got our maintenance assessment. We've then got our findings that are related to our different observations or findings that we've made. We've got our further pictures here where we did our annotation. Here we've got our finding 2, which is our damaged platform handrail. And we've also got our actions here as well in terms of criticality and due dates. So all of that has been exposed really well on our final report. I hope that helped in terms of how to actually initiate a new workflow using your template. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas or improvements, recommendations, suggestions, I'm happy to hear them. And feel free to get in touch at any time. So thanks again. Take care.